Try to smile or something. Halfway there.
We're going to be calling the meeting to order in just a moment. We had such a problem that we have so many wonderful attendees that we had to make it comfortable by getting you a chair. So we're very happy that you joined us for the evening. Dee Gordon is selling 50-50 raffle tickets. There's to split the pot at the end of the evening, and she's doing a last call for those. 6 for $5. So for $5, you get 6 chances to get half of the pot this evening. Please raise your hand if you're interested in those. We also have Debbie Smith at the back table selling raffle tickets for the Arizona Federation of Republican Women to build their treasury. She's raffling off a $350 gift card for Southwest Airlines. That will be done on the 10th of June at the Arizona State meeting up in Flagstaff. And we have beautiful jewelry, custom made at the back table as a fundraiser that will be for sale throughout the evening and after the meeting is concluded. I think everybody's set for the chair. I'll call our candidates up to the table. They can make themselves comfortable at the table. Our candidates for the forum can come up to the table. They're in the house. Jennifer? Yes. We have lots of cords up here. Be careful. And perfect. Do we have Peggy Nealy? She's
you don't look like Claude.
Okay. All right. Well, that's fine. We're going to. You can be seated. We're going to get everybody up again for the invocation, but I'm going to formally call the meeting to order. Welcome. My name is Lorraine Pellegrino. I'm very honored to be president of the Ahwatukee Republican Women's Club, and I welcome you all here this evening. Is there anybody here that is new, first time visiting us this evening? Could you raise your hands? Welcome. Love to have you here. These meetings are always open, free, usually free, unless it's a special event, fundraiser or whatever, but they're open to the public, and we invite you all to come at any time to join us. Of course, we'd love to have you join us as members. Men and women from other federated clubs can join us as associate members. And at this time, I would like to recognize that we have a few dignitaries here with us this evening. I did spot Senator John McComish. We welcome him this evening. And Representative Jeff Dials also. Have I missed anyone? Of course, my husband. Vice Chair of LD20 Republican Party is here this evening. Anyone else from any other officers from LD20 here this evening? Pam Dirks, our first Vice President, first Vice Chair. Jenny White, who is our chairman of LD20, is a member of Republican Women. Marge Miner is a parliamentarian for both LD20 and from ARW, member of Republican Women, so we are involved in our district and very proud of it, and we support each other whenever possible. I'd like to call Marilyn Astrop, our chaplain, up to give us our invocation.
Each year, the soldiers of the 3rd United States Infantry Regiment, called the Old Guard, takes part in a ceremony called Flags In. Just before Memorial Day, each grave in Arlington National Cemetery is decorated with a small American flag. The flag remains in place until the conclusion of the Memorial Day weekend, when they are all removed. It is the only time during the year when the American flags are permitted at all the grave sites in the cemetery. Will everybody rise for our invocation, those that can't? Let us be in a moment of prayer. In the quiet sanctuaries of our own hearts, let us call on the name of the one whose power over us is great and gentle, firm and forgiving, holy and healing, who sustains us, who calls us to live in peace. Hear our prayer this day. Hear our prayer for all who have died, whose hearts and hopes are known to you alone. Hear our prayer for those who have put the welfare of others ahead of their own. Give us hearts as generous as theirs. Hear our prayer for those who gave their lives in the service of others and accept the gift of their sacrifice. Help us to shape and make the world where we will put down the arms of war and live in the harvest of justice and peace. Comfort those who grieve and the loss of their loved ones. In the hearts, let our healing be our hope. Hear our prayer this day, and in your mercy, answer us in the name of all that is holy. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Marilyn. Priscilla Posey is our Americanism chair. She'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Back in December of 2000, just before the end of his presidency, Bill Clinton signed an act that is related to our observance of Memorial Day holiday this Monday. It was the National Moment of Remembrance Act, and it was in response to the concern that many Americans, particularly children and younger adults, had lost sight of the real meaning of Memorial Day and were much more focused on just having a nice long 3-day holiday weekend. But the act that was signed in 2000 established a moment of remembrance that would be observed at 3 p.m. local time every Memorial Day to help restore the original significance of this holiday as a day when we remember and honor those in our armed forces who have given their lives for our country. In his statement that he made at the time that he signed the act, even Bill Clinton, the former war protester, was moved to admit, quote, "While these heroes should be honored every day for their profound contribution to securing our nation's freedom, they and their families should be especially honored on Memorial Day. The observance of a national moment of remembrance is a simple and unifying way to commemorate our history and honor the struggle to protect our freedoms," end quote. So please remember next Monday to take a moment to pause at 3 o'clock and reflect on the way those who have preserved our nation and our freedom have sacrificed, And by all means, fly the flag in your memory. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Priscilla. Melissa Delaney is our recording secretary. She's going to be asking for the approval of our last month's meeting minutes.
Members, you were provided the opportunity to read the previous minutes in the ARW newsletter. Are there any corrections to the minutes? There are no corrections. The minutes stand approved.
For my president's report, I just want to remind everyone that we'll be attending the Arizona Federation of Republican Women's State Meeting up in Flagstaff on June 10th and 11th. Nice to get out of the warm weather, although we've been having some wonderful weather here in Phoenix, but it will be nice to get up to Flagstaff at that time of the year and get together with women from all around the state. Those who are members with us have received an email about that. We have a great representation from our club going. I'm very excited about that. Of course, this meeting in June will be in preparation for the big convention that we have in November, and Mary Bombeck will probably say a few words about that. I'll yield the floor to her in a moment. But we have an exciting year coming up with the national and the state conventions coming up. So she'll speak to you about that. In the meantime, I just have a word to say. Jill doesn't want me to do that. This is fun, but I would like to mention something about the Doty London program. The Doty London series, Doty London Excellence in Public Service series is a wonderful program we have here in the Valley, and I believe it's across the nation, 19 states. And we have been very fortunate to have a candidate from our club participate. Last year was Debbie Smith. She graduated, and we're very proud of that. And it's a wonderful program. And this year we have Jill Norgard, our third vice president, who's completed that series. Just want to tell you a little bit about it and encourage all our members to visit the website or speak to myself or Jill or Debbie about the program if they're interested in applying. The Doty London series is an annual training program for Republican women in Arizona that prepares women to be more effective leaders in government, politics, and in the community. Participants each have a goal to increase their level of involvement in public life as party leaders, elected or appointed officials, as grassroots activists, and or as community leaders. Each year, a class of talented women representing all regions of Arizona participate in intensive training sessions over the course of 9 months to gain information, tools, and skills to enhance their civic and political participation. Ahwatukee Republican women congratulate our third vice president, Jill Norgard, on her recent graduation from the Doty London Excellence in Public Service series. Jill? We have very fancy. That's just a token. There's really nothing we can give her. She gives back to us by having participated in the program. Oh, photo opportunity. The Roman photographer. Thank you. The Ahwatukee Republican women have given, as is become our custom, we give a very generous donation to their scholarship fund. They actually, how does it work? They don't charge you very much to participate if you're accepted in the program, so most of it is done on scholarships, and it is worth every penny. She just came back from Washington, and she has lots of wonderful stories to tell, so we're very proud of her. At this time, I'd like to call up our first Vice President of Programs, Karen Keefe, to talk to you about a little bit of what's coming up for our club.
Let's see, upcoming programs. No programs here at the Grace Inn for June and July. We're going to go dark. Governor Brewer is tentative for August. However, we are hosting a wine and cheese gathering at the home of Laura Phipps, and that will be in June, and the details will be determined. And a membership breakfast in July to be determined also.
Thank you, Karen. And we'll call, is Lucille Frost here as well this evening? Okay, Mary Bonbeck, please. Mary Bonbeck is our second vice president in charge of membership.
So, I'm happy to report we have 80 members, and tonight we have two new members that joined. So we have 82, and then we have an associate that we joined as well. And I'm supposed to talk about the state meeting. State meeting, okay. State meeting is June, and the deadline's not until the 27th, so you still have Friday if you want to come away with Flagstaff with us. It's going to be a lot of fun. We have great programs, but also the business that's going to be done are electing, or the interviews for our new board will be held, and then in November we will elect the new board for the state federation. They will also be electing the national delegates. So if any ladies are coming, you're just nominated from the floor, and you can go to the national convention that's in Kansas City. I'm excited about that. Barbecue. We have great barbecue here. We don't do Kansas. Oh, yeah, but the national convention will be here in the year 2015. So anyhow. So if you're interested in that, ask somebody to nominate you from the floor. If you want to go to the June meeting and be a part of that. It's very similar to the national convention from the Republican Party that you see, and the state signs are there, and that group from Arizona is there, and the group from Alabama's there. It's just fun. And they have high-profile speakers, contributors from Fox News, and published authors, and the presidential candidates came during the time that it was a presidential election. So it's a great convention to be involved in. Okay.
Thank you, Mary. And lastly, we have our treasurer's report. Laura Phipps. Yes, please. And is Jill Perry with us this evening? Okay. Well, Laura's coming up to tell us all how much money we have, which of course is a secret. When you leave the room, you don't tell anybody how much money we have. We're sharing our private things with you. I'll speak on behalf of our wonderful communications secretary, Jill Perry. The newsletter deadline always follows our meeting, Tuesday meeting. It's the Friday after our meeting. We know it's a busy weekend, but if you have something you'd like to submit, again, an email will go out to remind you. But we ask if you have suggestions or something you'd like to include in the newsletter yourself to please submit something. And we have a members corner as well. If you'd like to feature your business or something to that effect, or what you do, or have something to share, please let us know. Speaking of your business, we're accepting ads for the newsletter at a very nominal fee, and that will go out again with the reminder for the newsletter as well. And if you have any photographs you've taken of yourself or your spouse at various Republican events or city functions, we'd like to receive those as well to put them in the newsletter so we can show everybody what we're all doing out about town, making a difference. So I think that's it for Jill's report.
Mine. Hi, I'm Laura Phipps, and I'm the treasurer, and I'll keep it short and sweet. Our account balance is $5,735.37.
And I did buy a new microphone yesterday, and I went to Costco today for hospitality, so that's to be deducted. I didn't spend that much money. Okay, I would love to introduce Jill Norgard, give us a little fundraising overview, and introduce the panel. Actually, I'm going to be yielding the floor probably for almost the remainder of the evening to Jill, so I can go with that little hospitality.
Fundraising. Please take a moment to introduce yourself to Gabriella Salcido Mercer. Gabby, if you would stand and be recognized. She's worked in the defense industry for a number of years. She legally immigrated to the U.S. from Mexico in 1986 to live in a country that embraces individual liberties and freedoms and became a proud U.S. citizen in 1991. She's running for Congress. Gabby's running for Congress against Roll, Boycott, Arizona. Gabby has her own home-based jewelry business, and she donates a lot of her creations to candidates, charity events, and Republican clubs for fundraising efforts. And she's running for Congress, so she's raising funds selling her jewelry in the back, and she's agreed to donate 20% to our club. So please help us support her grassroots effort to run a competitive race and help our club raise money.
All right.
On to the forum. Good evening and welcome to the City of Phoenix Mayoral Forum, sponsored by the Ahwatukee Republican Women's Group. I'm Jill Norgard and I'll be your moderator for tonight's event. Our four participating candidates are Wes Gullet, Peggy Nealy, Wright, and representative of Claude Mattox. The format of this event is as follows. Candidates will be asked questions in random order, beginning with 2 minutes for opening remarks, to include the question, why am I running for mayor? In the next series of questions, candidates will get 90 seconds to respond. The green sign will indicate the start. The yellow, there will be an indication of 15 seconds and 30 seconds. And then when the red sign comes up, that will be your indication to stop speaking. Candidates are asked to hold any rebuttal comments until their closing remarks, which will also be 2 minutes. To get in as many questions as possible, audience, please refrain from clapping until all the candidates have completed their closing remarks. Let's get started. Jennifer Wright, tell us a little about yourself and why you are running for mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having us here today, and I want to thank all of you for coming out here to hear what the candidates for mayor of Phoenix have to say. My name is Jennifer Wright. I'm running for mayor of Phoenix. I'm a native, born and raised right here in the Valley. And I'm raising my family here. I've got my 2 boys and my husband here today. I think they'll duck out a little early, but they're here. And I'm running for mayor because of my children. I'm a native of the Valley. I've watched it change and grow and see all sorts of great developments in the Valley, and in the last few decades I've seen some very disturbing changes. The last decade in particular, I've seen some disturbing changes. And I think you've all seen it too. Signs as you're going down the street, for sale, for rent, out of business, going out of business, liquidation. I'm driving around Ahwatukee, there's a lot of empty retail space. A lot of empty retail space. And I have 2 very young entrepreneurial boys, and it's important to me that they have a future where they feel like they can build a business. And I believe that we have empty retail space not because of the economic climate, but because of the government regulations that are roadblocks to entrepreneurial spirit. Briefly, my son loves to sell lemonade. He's 4.5. I'll tell a longer version of the story, I'm sure, at some point. But basically, he's breaking, I don't know how many laws and regulations to simply sell lemonade in front of our house. And that's wrong. We're killing the entrepreneur spirit in 4-year-olds. How can we as a country, how can we as a city move forward when businesses can't grow and thrive? So as mayor, I'm going to put Phoenix back to business by allowing the environment for jobs and opportunities, safety and security, and fiscal responsibility. Thank you.
Team Mattox.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Peggy. I'm a former vice mayor and councilwoman for the city of Phoenix, and I was blessed to have that job for 14 years. Also, as a lifelong Republican, I'm just thrilled to be here tonight. Councilman Mattox sends his regards. The campaign had a little bit of a mix-up and double booked him, and prior to knowing about this, his wife Sherry had scheduled an event, and so he was unable to make it because of that commitment. So he asked me to step in and just share a little bit about what his passions are. I've known Councilman Mattox. I was blessed to serve with him for 10 years. He's an amazing man. Claude wants to be your voice, and to know Claude, you understand that right away because he's one of us. He doesn't pretend to be something that he's not. He understands how hard it is, in business and just a quality of life. And those quality of life issues are incredibly important. Claude's issues and his, the reason he wants to run for mayor is he believes we need to do something to make sure that we have quality schools. Education is the backbone of who we are, and you can't have career jobs, which is something that is so important to him, without that education. When elected, Claude will have a panel of people, thank you, who will advise him on those issues. Besides strong neighborhoods, which has always been huge for him, many of you have heard of Maryville Unite. Claude has represented Maryville and Phoenix for a long time, many times thought as a very troubled area, and because of his leadership, we have seen crime drop at such a low level, and yet neighborhood participation at an all-time high. So thank you so much, and blessed to be here.
Peggy, Nealy?
Thank you all for coming out tonight. I'm Peggy Nealy, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about me and then ask you for your vote tonight. So I've been on council. I was on it until last month, but I was there for 9.5 years. And I truly believe in this city. We choose to live there just like you folks do. We have a lot of great things going for us. But what I want to tell you is I raised my 2 children here. They went to school in Arizona. They got great jobs, but we need to make sure that those kids can stay here. We need to work on our economy. We need to make sure that we have great jobs, high-paying jobs, and we need to expand on that economy. I have the leadership to make that happen. I've been working up in District 2 for years, and we've been able to expand the economy, bring in great jobs up there. We need to do that across this whole valley. From the end of Ahwatukee, all the way to Carefree Highway, on up to Antrim, all the way west, all the way east. We need to look after this city. It's not one place in the city, but it's the whole city. And I believe that we can do that. So the economy will be number 1 for me. Number 2 will be making sure we control our budget. Things are tough out there right now. And I'm just going to say to you, I agree with a lot of things that Councilman DeCiccio has been talking about. And we need to make sure that we continue to move forward. I did not vote for the food tax. I did not vote for the budget. Why? Because my fellow people did not look at it properly. So I just want to tell you that the other thing will be transparency. I hope after you hear what I have to say tonight, I will gain your support. I look forward to this debate, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Wes Gullet, and I'm running for mayor. And I'm so happy to be here in Ahwatukee again. We were just here last week, and it was great. And I was here on Saturday. We were campaigning door to door and at the library. And I've spent a lot of time down here in Ahwatukee. And the reason why is because you are an incredibly important part of the city, and a part of this city that is sometimes forgotten about. And if I'm elected mayor, I guarantee you that's not going to be possible. I just wanted to share with you 4 reasons why I'm running for mayor tonight. 1, we have to keep a laser focus on growing jobs in the economy. We all talk about jobs. What we have to do is cut the red tape that is amassed over the past 20 years in Phoenix. We've got to cut red tape. We've got to lower the cost of small businesses doing business in Phoenix. And we've got to grow the economy by having small businesses be able to start up and expand without a burden of the city. The city needs to be the good guys, not the bad guys. Right now, they're holding our businesses down. Two, we've got to have a strong police force. We have to have a police department we can count on. It needs to have leadership that we have confidence in. That's not occurring today. And it's been 4 months since we've had a police chief. We've had an interim. It's unacceptable. We need to have a national search. We need to get a police chief, and we need to get going. And the third thing we need to do is have strong neighborhoods. Great cities have great neighborhoods. Our city has great neighborhoods. What we need to do is take the lessons that we've learned from those great neighborhoods and spread them through our more challenged neighborhoods. And finally, we've got to have a government that we can afford. We're all going to talk about that. I've got the experience of cutting budgets, of cutting taxes. I was chief of staff to Governor Fife Singleton, who many of you might remember. And we had tough times back then. But what did we do? We didn't grow government. We didn't increase taxes. We cut taxes, cut the size of government. And I was right there working with Fife every day to get it done. I'd appreciate your vote. Thank you very much.
As taxpayers, we have an investment in our city and its officials. In return, we expect our city to be fiscally responsible with our money. A plan that is currently outlined in City Manager David Cavasso's 2011-2012 budget is to spend $28.9 million of our debt repayment fund for performance pay raises and longevity awards for city employees. That vote was today. Peggy Nealy, how would you have voted?
Thank you. I would have voted no. And part of the reason is the fact that there was no transparency to this. We spent meetings after meetings asking our community what they wanted their budget to look like. Shortly after all of the budget hearings, then we came with a proposal for increase in longevity and merit raises. That is not the way that this city should be run. We've always been a great city by having input from all of you. Unfortunately, we figured if we did it this way, we would take less flack for it. Absolutely no.
Jennifer Wright, if you were on the city council today, what would you have voted?
Unlike my other candidates, I was actually at the city council meeting today, and I spoke what I believed to be was necessary, and that is to vote no on the budget. And as I told Mr. Cavasso, and as I told the mayor, it is irresponsible that we don't have ahead of these votes a complete line item budget of what's being voted on. There's a lot of discussion about merit pay and all these things, and there's some debate back and forth of whether it exists or whether it doesn't exist and what was promised. But the fact of the matter is, if we simply had this information available online, we would know for a fact exactly what changed from last year to this year. And I was very disappointed that that information is not available. And as mayor, I'm going to demand that information be available and demand that the city taxpayers know how and where their money is being spent. So today I advised the board to vote, or the council to vote no on the budget. 2 people voted no. There were 6 yes votes, and Claude Mattox was one of those yes votes. And Wes Gullet's campaign, one of his people very closely involved in his campaign, Tom Siplett, was also a yes vote. And so I see that as very concerning. And I'm concerned about it because we don't know what's in the budget. It's no different than passing Obamacare without knowing what's in it. How can anyone make an informed decision without the details?
Wes Gullet, would you like to respond?
I definitely would have voted no. And one of the things Mrs. Nealy stayed on the council to do was to watch the budget process. That's what she said when she was exploring her candidacy. It wasn't a very good exploration or witnessing because none of us knew what was in there until about a week ago with these pay raises. It's ridiculous. Now, they also, Mrs. Nealy and Mr. Mattox also voted for the contracts that created this, where 89% of the people got merit raises. Well, 89% were not meritorious. 89%, if we're in a tight budget time, what we need to do is say 30% are doing a good job. And that saves us a huge amount of money. But we have to negotiate these contracts in a way that the employees actually know how to be meritorious. They don't have any idea. We've got, and there's a contract coming up again next year. We've got to have somebody in there who can negotiate these contracts well. The part that bugs me the most is that we're borrowing money to balance this budget. That's ridiculous. We're borrowing more money to balance the budget, and it doesn't make any sense. And that's why I would have voted no, because they need to go back in and make the cuts so that we don't have to borrow more money to get our budget balanced. That's why I've been to the city council and testified many times, and today I didn't go down, but I did listen, and it was ridiculous.
Team Mattox, Claude voted yes to spend $28.9 million of our debt repayment fund for performance pay raises. Please explain.
Yes, he did. A couple of years ago, when sales tax revenues and we just saw the economy take such a downturn, the city council was faced with some horrific budget problems. And they went to the unions and they went to the employees and asked them to take a cut, and they did. And part of the labor negotiations in that, as a result of that, part of the labor negotiations were that in this year, that they would get part of those cuts that they took. They are still not up to the money that they lost as a result of the cuts. But most important, what we need to realize is it makes a very easy headline and an easy thing for people to speak out against. But there's a legal responsibility. When you enter into labor negotiations and you enter into that contract, to renege on that contract is just to invite a lawsuit. Furthermore, as far as transparency in the budget, at the very beginning of the budget season, when the city manager and the council members go out, the city manager publishes a huge book, bigger than the phone book, that is a line item, absolutely line per line on what the budget is. And you can also go online and get that as well, not to mention many, many budget meetings. But when I talked to Claude and asked him how he wanted me to explain this, it was about keeping his word to people who took significant cuts so that the balance could be budget. Thank you.
Like many government agencies, Phoenix has a pay plan based on a step system. The system has been in place for more than 50 years and includes 8 or 9 steps employees can progress depending on the city job. Each step or promotion comes with merit pay based on tenure and annual performance reviews. Do you agree or disagree with this plan, and why or why not? Team Mattox.
You know, all I can say is I know that Claude voted for the budget, as I said earlier, because of prior commitments, and I don't know where he would be with that. I do know that he believes that the city of Phoenix, we have the finest employees anywhere, and if we want to have a top-notch city, we have to be able to compete within the private sector. Thank you.
Jennifer Wright.
Just to make sure everyone understands what step increases are, so it basically means as long as you're sitting in that seat, you get a raise. And I don't know of any other private corporation or industry that operates under that model. That's not a sustainable model. You get raises based on your performance. You get raises based on promotions. Sometimes there's a COLA raise, cost of living increase, but most companies have thrown those by the wayside. My husband works for a major corporation. He hasn't had a cost of living wage increase in, I think, a decade. That's the, well, you're just sitting in your seat kind of raise. And most private industry has gone away from that. And it's based on performance. It's based off of what pay grade you're in and various different factors. But to compete with private industries, we should go with what the private industry does. We don't need to create our own system that allows for someone to just continue to get pay raises despite how good or bad they do their job, just because they happen to sit in that seat. And so I'm absolutely opposed to the step rates. Obviously, that's in our current contract. The contracts are soon up for renegotiation. The city manager is responsible for overseeing those contract negotiations. As mayor, my directive to him, and I would work with the council to make sure he understands the directive, is to renegotiate a contract that is workable in both the private industry, the public sector that we have, but the private industry type model. And that's what we need to move towards.
West
we've got to blow that up. And the reason why we've got to blow it up when we do our contract negotiations is just like why we need to elect somebody who's not been on the city council for the last 28 years. We've got to get somebody in there with fresh ideas, with new ideas, with fresh eyes, new energy, who can actually get down in the weeds and work with these guys and sit alongside the city manager. When I was the governor's chief of staff, I went into my first budget meeting. The budget director said, "You don't need to be here. No chief of staff's ever been here before. This is just between me and the governor." I said, "Absolutely not. Not only do I want to learn this process, I want to be involved in every part of it, because if you follow the contracts, if you follow the budget in a detailed way and understand how it works, you understand when they're trying to sneak more money into the deal. And that's what we've got to stop. We don't have a revenue problem, we've got a spending problem. And we've got to be sure that we're not increasing that spending along the way. And a big part of that is these contracts, because we've got to adjust for our competitiveness with the private sector. We're totally out of whack there. We've got to really put a lot of pressure on these new contract negotiations, and we need somebody who's going to be tough enough to say no, and say no consistently, and then be able to get down in the details and get the job done.
Peggy Nealy, would you agree with the step plan or no?
I think we have to look at everything differently. Transparency, again, comes back, but I also want to say transparency to you was a 4-page sheet that came out and said, oh, we've cut back in our departments and we've done this and that. What you saw at the meetings talked nothing about merit and longevity raises. To Mr. Gullet, the state has the same system. I don't think you blew that up when you were there with 5 Symington. So, you know, I'm going to tell you, we need to understand that you're not going to go and blow up City Hall when you first get there. You're going to have to work with the bodies to get there, because there are legal contracts. And the question is, can you put the people in the room and get done what has to be? We have a spending problem. We need to begin to live within our spending limits. We have gone out and used our credit card one too many times. So what I would say to you is we need to look at how we're going about this. But our community has to have a say in what they want. We have avoided asking you how you feel about what we're doing out there. And you will elect a mayor that can move forward and balance a budget, and someone that you believe has the ability and leadership to get it done. I do. Thank you.
City elections are in the off years, and we are funding these elections. Would you be in favor of changing the election dates to the same years as the federal races? Wes Gullet.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, one of the proposals that I'm going to be announcing in June, one of my big ideas, is changing the way we do have a charter convention. One of the things that charter convention needs to look at is changing the date of our elections. In the general plan that the city proposed, it said we want 100% turnout. Well, that was a lie. The whole document started with a lie, because we can't get 100% turnout if we're going to put this election in the corner of summer on August 30th. And we're going to keep the City Hall election station open for 30 days. What we need to do is we need to move it. I'd be willing to take a year off of my term and move it to the elections in 2014. That would be a big step in the right direction. We would have the mayor, which is the second most important job in Arizona, right there next to the governor's election, and we would increase turnout by three times. That would get people engaged. That would make people focused. And that's something that I'm willing to do, because I'm not just a regular politician. I'm willing to give up a year of my term so that we can have a better system. I think that's something we need to do, and we need to do it right away.
Peggy Nealy?
I recognize a lot of faces. A lot of you were here last week, and yes, I would be willing to do that. I think we need to have some charter changes, and I believe that putting the election on a regular cycle with other elections is good business. Because I hear way too often, oh, what's that election? When is it? We need those folks. We need to hear from you. How can it be a government of the people if we are not reaching out to you? So I'd be supportive. Thank you.
Team Mattox?
Thank you. I'm going to have to pass on that. I don't know Claude's opinion on that.
Jennifer Wright?
Not only do I think it's absolutely imperative that we move the elections to November, it's the fiscally responsible thing to do. It costs the city of Phoenix an extraordinary amount of money to hold these elections in August. Not only does it disenfranchise voters that aren't aware of these elections and keep them from getting out to the polls and keeping them from being involved, but it also makes no fiscal sense. So it goes back to one of my core principles, fiscal responsibility. Is it fiscally responsible to have an election in in August of an odd year? And I don't know if you all know how the elections work, one of us has to get a majority vote. So what that means is that majority meaning one of us has to get 50% plus one in order for us to win in August. With this size of panel, it's nearly impossible for one person to get 50+%. And this isn't all the candidates in the race, by the way. So that means that the top 2 vote getters are going to go to a runoff election in November. So not only is the city of Phoenix paying for the election that we have in August, but we're paying again for the runoff in November. And this just is insane. This is part of the process that is broken within our city government. And that's what I intend to fix, and I believe absolutely we need to have relook at the charter and have a convention on that to look at the city charter and look at that as well as the city manager's responsibilities and the role the city manager plays. Thank you.
In private industries, most vacation benefits are use it or lose it each year. City employees have options to roll over their vacation, thus increasing the pension benefits they receive based on an inflated salary. Would you be in favor or opposed to a use it or lose it vacation policy? Peggy Nealy.
I think that that's exactly right. I especially believe that we have to change where we can gross up what we're taking into our pensions. So I would start by looking to make changes to make sure that you can't take over an overabundance of money from your sick leave and then from your vacation to be able to move forward. So I would be definitely open to taking a look at that. Every employee should have vacation, but I believe that we need to make sure that it's not carried over year after year. Maybe you cap it, maybe it's not something that goes indefinitely. Maybe there's a cap of 2.5 years, because I know some employers will roll it at 18 months, something like that should be looked at.
Jennifer Wright?
I don't know about you, but I was shocked and appalled to find out that city employees are rolling over their annual benefit days, which includes their sick time, their vacation time, their holiday time, and they're able to hold that indefinitely. And then when they leave their job, they're able to cash out. And sometimes that's in excess of 6 figures that they cash out on when they leave the company. When they leave, it should be run more like a company, when they leave the city. How many of you work for a business and get sick or holiday pay? And how many of you get to roll it over indefinitely? Anyone? No. There's always, for private corporations, we've always had caps. This shouldn't be a novel idea. Whether it's use it or you lose it within the first year, which is what my husband's company offers, or within an 18-month period, we absolutely, that's, again, the fiscally responsible thing to do. We've heard other candidates talk about making sure we've got quality employees and competing with the private sector, but we're offering a benefit that's not only unsustainable, but it's not even competitive with the private market. It's a luxury that we can't afford as a city, because us as taxpayers are subsidizing those payouts when they leave, and that's a problem. And I'm going to fix that problem in the next, I intend to make sure the city manager works on that with the next contract negotiation as well.
Team Mattox?
I know Councilman Mattox has some huge concerns over a lot of the issues that we've talked about tonight. And one of the things I know that he's already asked City Manager Cavazos to do is take a look at all of it, the full package. What can be done legally that isn't in a legally binding agreement. I know that he feels strongly, though, about the vacation pay and, I'm sorry, I'm kind of at a loss for words, but just, the vacation pay and holiday pay, that not be allowed to be rolled over into their long-term benefit plan.
Wes Gullet?
we've got to end spiking. What we've been talking about here is spiking your pay at the end, and it grows your pension up in the last 3 years when you're about to retire. It's not appropriate. It's not done in the private sector. We've got to stop it. We have to have significant pension reform, and we have to do it, and there's constitutional questions here as well about the Arizona Constitution protects the people's benefit package. So you've got to be careful about how you do it. But I believe that one of the things that is not protected is contribution levels. And we have to, in the negotiations on these new contracts, we have to talk about contribution levels. We have to end spiking. We must end double dipping. It's outrageous. And if we do these things in our pension fund, maybe we can get that pension fund to grow back into, so that it's not so unfunded, where we have to spend $100 million a year in unfunded pension liability. Because that $100 million is killing us. It's not sustainable. We've got to fix it, and we've got to do it in an urgent manner. And that begins with these contract negotiations.
Since everyone agrees, we should probably get that on the next ballot then. The Army wants a few good men.